So, welcome back to a big update video. We will talk today about Unity software. We will make a little update on GNS, a little update on SAVA, a little update on Trump Media. We will talk about if high-growth mining is now knifing or not. We will take because of the little crypto crash at MSTR. We will look on buyer AG because someone wished it, and because of the little crypto crash and someone wanted to see my tracking, we will look at Bitcoin, Doge, and XRP. If you're interested, just stay tuned. So, as always, I am using the Fractal method. I will link the explanation video at the end of the video, or you just search for the playlist Fractal method on my channel. Well, then we start with Unity software. So, we start with Unity software because of a very special reason. Before the whole tracking, I always said, especially in the tutorial video, that for my method, shorts, who is buying, who is selling, dilution, and especially news, all these things don't matter for this method. And especially that the move comes first and then comes the news. And I will show that. I started with this tracking, I think, at the beginning of my channel. You can backtrack me if you want. The IPO of Unity started in the run to its big B. The pullback to all-time highs to its C, then lower high, midpoint, fall to the last time to sell mark to the T, to our V. And our V was in August 2024. Then we made a perfect higher low. It was perfect under the 7.86. And then we went to our A. Over the trend line of T, A peak, perfect. And I already said back then, I want my 0.5 or 0.618 pullback. And the last time I think I showed it, you can backtrack me as I said, I think it was here at the lower high. And I said, I still want this downside. And for transparency, I thought that our C peak was here. I was wrong. I already showed that I was wrong. This was just our little B. And I also said, if I'm wrong, I still will track it. I still will show it. I'm not running away from these things because only my mistakes you can learn. So the reason now for Unity. Why did we drop 40% last Friday? Yeah. Because I watched it and I thought to myself, hey, cool, great. What is the news? And there was just none. For 6 whole hours, there was no news. After 6 hours, the news came out that Google is creating an AI which can program games on its own. And that was the reason why all of a sudden in pre-market, Unity knifes $30. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to point out. In the morning, everyone at the same time got insider information that Google is making this AI and everyone saw it. It's plausible, right? Especially because Unity Engine is a gaming engine company. They are not making their, I mean, maybe they are making some of their own games, but mainly they're providing the engine to create games. So even if this AI is so perfect that they can program their own games, it still needs an engine. It makes no sense. And even if it makes sense, for sure, at the same time, everyone is selling. Yeah. 6 hours later. Yeah? That's what I mean is, that's a perfect example. Move happens, and then every news reporter is searching for, shit, what do we write to explain this move? Yeah? Because even if there would be a logical news for this, why did I know that months earlier? It makes no sense. That's the reason why I'm using this method, and that's the reason why if you see that time after time after time, you will get to the point where you're thinking, hey, shit, something isn't working here. If this is a news-driven supply and demand market, how can that work? Just an idea. So, for the tracking for Unity, is this enough? Yeah, because our 0.5 pullback is here at $25.57. The lowest point was 27.59. And as I'm always saying, you have two pullbacks in my theory. You have the V and A, which would mean you have your M, T, V and A. Yeah? And the V and A is exactly the point where previous bottom of A is. Yeah? For V and A, you have to come at least 1 cent under the A bottom. So if this would be higher low, which it isn't, you have to come at least, the bottom is at $22.18. You have to come at least under 22.18, so 22.17. Yeah, there is no we bounce at the bottom or over it. For the second pullback, the 0.5 or the 0.618, you can bounce over it, at it, or a little bit under it. So this could be enough, and you can just bounce from here. After that, your next target is Big B, and Big B is at 109 or higher. Then 0.5 pullback from your A bottom, and then the only question is, are you breaking all-time highs or not? For the micro tracking, where would be our M and our T? Well, our M is clearly this point before we dropped. You can, because here is your B, you can cheat a little bit because you can take the trend line from your B bottom with the most touch points to the point where your M is. Yeah? So this is clearly M. Where would be your T? Well, there are two ways. First of all, your T could be just in here, yeah, because of the volatility, or this wasn't our V, you're bouncing now, this would be a T, and you still have to come down here. How could you confirm this? Well, in either way, if this was the bottom or this is the bottom, you still need a higher low. So we could look at the 50-minute, for example, and if this is our bounce, this would be our little higher low. In that case, if you're doing that absolutely exact, this could be already finished. Yeah, under the 0.786. So from here is upside. Or you just drop again and still need the 0.5. The shitty part with such volatile moves is the next real confirmation would be if you go over your M. So if you go over $44.20, your next target is your B, over 109. I would even say, no, yeah, the only confirmation you have is over 44. Yeah, but to say that, doesn't matter if shares or contracts, no financial advice. The difference between 27 and 25, 26-ish is nothing, in my opinion. If we now still have to go down here or not, your next target is 109. Just saying. How would this move look like? Do we already have an explanation for this? Yeah. It would look like this. Yeah. So we could maybe even say, this is a 0.5. Wait a second. Yeah, then your A was down here. Was it? Doing that right. Let's do this. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Haha. So this was the move before. Yeah. So maybe this is pretty quick and volatile. And after you get your 9, yeah, this is the pullback we're expecting. This could take a little longer again. So yeah, it looks absolutely fantastic. Okay, next one is DJT. So for DJT, because of the move of last Friday, we sadly have 3 versions in total. They are all, I would say they are all bullish. The third one is an experimental one, just saying. But before we start the whole thing, yeah, for DJT, it started its IPO in its high low, and the ABC you didn't even see because it was just one candle. After your higher low form, you see, you made a massive lower high. The lower high started here and ended here. Yeah. After that, you made a massive M. This whole thing is your M because it's starting here. It's only finishing when it's lower where it started. And then you started a massive T. Yeah. Same principle. It has to go lower where it started. So our V was on November 21st, I think. Where was it? Yeah, November 21st. And then we did this little higher low. I will come to that later. But to say this, I always say I want a higher low before we go, but this little higher low is far too small for this big T and big M and big L. We need a bigger higher low. Yeah? So we will do now our big macro higher low. Yeah? Something like this. Yeah? We will talk about that in a second. After we finished this higher low, our next target is our big A. $50, $60, 0.5 pullback if needed, because on IPO we didn't do it. Then our B is between $170, 0.5 pullback if needed, because also we didn't saw it. And then we go to our C, so breaking all-time highs or not. So now to the higher low. So I will start with the 2 normal versions first, the experimental versions last. So for the first version, it's just the normal bullish version, means we did our micro higher low, which finished perfectly under the 0.768. We added a little micro higher low, and here again, same like Unity, in the moment it is finished, we squeezed up, and of course, merchant news. What a surprise. And in that case, in the bullish version, this would be our A, from your bottom to your peak, 0.5, 0.618 bounce, perfect. And this would be just higher low, the higher low to this one. Yeah. Under the 0.786, if we bounce here, and I say that absolutely clearly for this version, you're not allowed to touch or break $12.52. As long as you're not doing that and bouncing here, your next target is something over $30. Yep. Then you're doing a 0.5 pullback from your A bottom. would mean you pull back to $20 and then you go to your C, to the peak of the high low, and you're not breaking this trend line. I'm talking about this massive big trend line. So nothing over 45, 46. You will reject here, make a lower high, midpoint T4 to your V&A, and we already have the number for this. And that would mean you have to go 1 cent under $12.51. And then the big move starts. That's version 1. Version 2 is the version where you touch 1250 or breaking it. That only means that this whole thing is just it's not the big higher low, it's the middle higher low. It's just the higher low of this T. In that case, you have to go under 1141, bounce here. This would be the finish of your higher low. Then you will go up over T, so something around 20. This would be your A. 0.5 pullback, B. 0.5 pullback, C. Same as version 1. And again, then under V&A again. This would take longer because you have more price action. But it would still be, I mean, all 3 versions are still bullish. But this would be take more time. Version 3 is the shortest one. So here version 3. And it's also the experimental one I meant. The main change here is that I already showed that, I think in the last video, that I'm testing this rule where if you have your M and T, and the problem is they are not really touching the trend line. That means your T is too low to touch the same trend line as your M is doing. Means you have a second trend line only with the touch point M and T. That means that the higher low of the M and T isn't breaking over this trend line. This also means that the peak of your higher low isn't going over $26. It won't be 30, it won't be 40. The higher low won't break this trend line. Also the reason, I mean, you have a lower target for your peak of the higher low, but because it's lower, it would also be quicker. Now it's the question which is better. In that case, you would still bounce here, go up to your B, pull back, go up to your C. And then you still have to do the same thing as all 3 versions. You have to break under 1251-ish. And then you still make your move. This is the only version I can say I don't know. I'm still testing this theory if it's okay or not. The other 2 versions are proven, and it's only about levels. So for levels, if you go over 15.43, you will go up. Only question is, are you breaking this or not? If you're breaking $26, then you still have 30 and 45 for your A peak, for your higher low peak. If you touch or break $12.51, you will go down to $11, and this is just higher low and will take more time. I hope that wasn't too confusing. And believe me, I made the German video first, and that was confusing. So write me in the comments if this was too confusing, so I can try to make it better. So next one is GNS. So after this complicated DJT, an absolutely fucking easy GNS, because we only have 1 version left after this move on Friday. So GNS started its IPO at its C. B&A, you have to imagine. Pull down, come up again. This was our lower high. Pull down, this was our M. Pull down, this was our T. And then we fell to our V. So, no, sorry. One little mistake. Here is our M. Yeah, because always up, down, starting L, up. L is finished here, up, M is finished here, T. Very important. This can't be either of them because it's higher than this. Just saying. Okay, then to our V. And then we did our high low. I will come to that in a second. Our next target, whenever this is finished, our A is over the T line. So 673, then 0.5 pullback up to our B. B is at $85. 0.5 pullback, breaking all-time highs or not. So now to our higher low. Earlier I had a bullish version for this too, and the bullish version was that this whole thing was just our A, and this little higher low would have been enough. Thing is, we had to bounce here. We didn't, we break through. So this section here is our T, and this whole thing is our higher low. There is no alternative for this anymore. It just isn't. So where do we have to go? Well, we have to go to our 0.786 fib line. And to be exact, our A bottom is here at 30 cents. We have to go there. There's no way around it. We have to go. How long? Well, my time frame was always February 13 to February 26. So in the best case, we are knifing now down in 2 weeks. I mean, it's 30%, I think. Yeah, 40%. That the lawsuit must have gone terribly wrong, in my opinion, would be the news or something like that. And from February 12 to February 26, you're making a higher low. Yeah. And then they won the lawsuit and boom. I would imagine something stupid like that. Or you will just fall till February 26 and then making your higher low. And then you go. Yeah. Right now, this is easiest tracking one-to-one. Yeah. Sadly, we took the absolute most bearish route we had, but at least we only have one version left. So next one is SAVA. So also for SAVA, before we start, I'm always saying this. This is my 100% risk play. In my opinion, it's even more riskier than AMC and GME. For the explanation, why do we even look at that? It's just because it always does a peak, gaps down, doing bullshit, gaps up. Peak, gaps down, bullshit, gaps up. Yeah, you know, always the same. For our tracking, we're just looking from 2020 till today. And here also, we did our V, A, B, C, lower high, midpoint T, gap down, bullshit. And we're tracking now the gap fill. And the gap is going from 480 to 26. Yeah? That's the only reason why we are interested in this. So for the micro tracking, we did our V in April 2025 and forming a higher low now. So sadly, with the move on last Friday, we have now 3 versions. One absolute bearish one, 2 relative good ones. We start with the absolute bearish one because it's the quickest one, and that means that this whole thing is just a bounce. Just a bounce in this drop. You will knife down, you make a new all-time low, yeah? And in that case, you would be right now here, yeah, in December 18. You will knife down, make a new all-time low, and this whole thing most likely will take 5 to 6 months. Yeah. And then I'm still confident we still then make the gap fill, but it makes no sense to play this because, also in the next months, because this is just sideways. Yeah. That's the absolutely bearish version. Not seeing that yet, but be careful. So for version 1 and 2, yeah. For version 1 and 2, for the bullish versions, we're still in this higher low, yeah. But this last peak in January 26 was our T. Means we will go down now. We have now 2 points. I mean, if you take our fib, yeah, it isn't really helping us because it's exactly between these 2 points. Yeah. So first point is that our A is here. Makes sense because if you take the fib from here to here, it came close to the 0.5. And if you take from the bottom to your B, we bounce at the 618. Makes sense. If you take the A to here, you take the fib, it also came close to the 0.5. And if you're taking the bottom of A to the B, it perfectly matches the 0.5. So, yeah, it's quite shitty right now. For version 1, this would be the shortest one. You have to come down to 174. Bounce here. Most likely doing a micro high low, and off we go. And the second one would be your A is here. You have to go under 146, make a little micro high low, and you go. These versions you have. Yeah. I don't see any chance to bounce from here. Yeah. I mean, okay, technically, this T is finished. In that case, you have your old tracking where this would be your A, but you're far away from your 0.5. And you're also here far away, so that's, I just can't see that. Yeah. But for levels, sorry, I'm losing my voice right now. I would still say, for the absolute weirdest reason why ever, if you break 2.33, why ever, I can't be bearish anymore and you will go up. If you bounce here, it's version 1. If you bounce at 146, it's version 2. If you're not stopping here, and in my opinion, if you break 122, you will go down. And the next 6 months, nothing will happen. Just saying. And again, if you have shares, you can play it. A little warning, if you want to buy options, I will tell you, in the moment you bought them, and we didn't get the move, you can't get out. Yeah, just saying. Yeah, that's why it's a 100% risk play. Okay, next one is high-craft mining. So, high-craft mining. Will your little bitch start knifing, please? So, just for transparency, yeah, it's one of the few times I really was wrong, because my first 2 attempts where I said this was the top, then this was the top, and this was the top. Yeah? And then I said, okay, you don't like me, Highcraft, so here's our last gap. So we will fill this gap. And Highcraft Mining seems to listen to me and say, no, I just do exact the opposite you are saying. Yeah. For the tracking, you can track this in two methods. First, just symmetry, where you just take half of the stock, take the bars pattern, flip it on this side, and read it from right to left. This would look like this, and it's quite one-to-one. Yeah. For my method, this is just A. What we are looking for is this pullback. Yeah. So for the normal tracking, we have our C, our lower high, our midpoint, our T, knife down to our V. Then we made a perfect high low, and then this massive A, because it's just, to say this this, in my opinion, will form a massive cup and handle. And for everyone who knows what that means, that's fucking bullish. For the people who don't know what this means, a cup and handle pattern, if it's forming, you're most of the time taking this cup and handle, form the point in the middle to your low, and you add this on the right side. Crazy, right? But that's not what we track right now. We right now track that this shitty stock starts knifing. Yeah? We still want this pullback. This pullback would be just our A pullback. What is an A pullback looks like? Well, from the low to our top of A 0.5 or 0.618 pullback. Means if this was our top, our next target pretty quick should be around 10 or $6. Then we would bounce here, go up to our B. Our B doesn't really have a pullback in the past, so we would then be going sideways here. And then is only the question, are we breaking all-time highs or not? And if true, the cup and handle formation would then take place. So, only dangerous part if you are interested in playing puts. Of course, for the micro tracking, if you look at lower time frames, I always said for confirmation, wait for the lower high. So this could be already our lower high, but I thought that back then here too. Yeah. For the lower high, we are not allowed to break this level, of course, anymore. Then we could take down. I can get down. For the comparison, if you look at this move, you got your peak. A massive downside, but up again. This was your lower high, and then you knifed. Yeah. So this could be our little lower high, or we just doing something like this. Yeah. And after that we knife. That's the shitty part about this right now. Yeah. I still have my puts. I will let them run to zero because I'm stubborn and I hate when a stock is making jokes of me. Yeah. For the safest way to play this, in my opinion, wait for the 0.5 and just go long. No financial advice, but this is the way easier method. But in my opinion, the news is already written. You know, gold crashing, silver crashing, everything is crashing. Yeah, gold mine, but gold price is crashing. Blah blah blah. Yeah, perfect news for a knife. Let's see what happens next week. Next one is Bayer, because someone wished it. So it's a German company. It's looking pretty nice. The thing is, I still have two versions for this. We will start with the bearish one because I already drawed it. That only means from IPO till March 2003, this was just our macro higher low. And then from March 2003 till today, this is just A. Yeah? And it's not finished yet. Yeah? Because in that case, in my opinion, you still have to come at least 17.7 down, because this would just be your T. You still have to come lower than 18 and bounce here higher low. And then you go even higher than all-time highs, because this would be your next B. Yeah. Why I'm thinking it, the only reason for that, because this looks pretty nice. I will come to the bullish version after that. But you could compare this pullback here with this pullback here. You have your C, you have your C. Lower highs here, lower highs here. You come massively down. You come massively down. You go in a steady uptrend. You go into a steady uptrend, form your M. Massively coming down. Massively coming down. Come up again. Up again. One last knife. That's the only reason I have this bearish order. The only one. Because for the bullish version, Here, the bullish version, you already finished everything. Yeah, because if you look from your V to your top, you bounced quite far away from your 0.618, but you didn't broke under the 0.786. You bounce and you're really high up here. So happens sometimes, but this looks more like this is already A, and you go to your B. Confirmation for this is everything over. Yeah, if you break this trend line and everything over 68, it's confirmation. You most likely will do a breakout retest, and then you will break all time highs. It looks fucking nice. Let's see. Okay, next one, MSTR, because of the little crypto crash. Okay, for MSTR, before we starting with the tracking, because I bet with you I will get the comment again, the same like Riot. My tracking is wrong, doesn't matter if bullish or bearish, because MSTR is moving with Bitcoin. So, to prove a point, again, left side, weekly MSTR. Right side, weekly Bitcoin on Binance. Not Binance, Bitstamp, because Bitstamp has the bigger chart. Because MSTR back then, I think wasn't even a crypto company. Yeah, it only started around here with buying Bitcoin. Okay, so let's look. From October 2012, Bitcoin massively went up. Binance just sideways. Then they both got the same move in August 2020. We zoom in here so we see that better. Oh, the only difference here is Bitcoin wasn't even at its first top, and Binance already pulled back because it was a B peak. Then Bitcoin made a higher high, a new all-time high. Binance, MSTR, just did a lower high. Then both fell again. Okay, fine. Then Binance went to its new all-time high. Bitcoin went also up. Okay, fine. And then on November 24, MSTR got its all-time high. Bitcoin, again, wasn't even finished yet. MSTR already did a lower high. Bitcoin wasn't even finished with its highest high yet. And then Binance, MSTR was falling. Now Bitcoin is also falling. The point is, of course, they are holding very, very many Bitcoins. And the volatility will have an influence on MSTR. But it has its own fractal. Yeah? Just my opinion. Okay, for the fractal itself, I have to say, I don't have a really bullish version. Yeah. The most bearish one, where we start with this, means the top was October, was it? December 2024. Your next target is V under A. That means $3. Crazy, I know, but we would just repeat what we have done here. Yeah, we had our peak, lower high, and right now in that case we would be right now somewhere in here, maybe not even here, and still in the drop to this. Yeah, and we would still have to drop, come up to our M, reject, and even fall lower. Yeah, in that case, really, you already finished your lower high. Your next target, most likely in my opinion, would be 43, just because this would be the V and A just of this section here. You would bounce here, make your M, fall even lower, come up to a T, and fall to your V and A. Yeah, that would be $3. And everyone will say MSTR isn't surviving that. Exactly the same that said in June 2002. Yeah, in my opinion, they will just make a new business model, whatever, and then they will go up again. That would be the absolute bearish case. The bullish case would be that this is our A, this. And this whole thing is just our macro B. What does that mean? Well, in that case, you only have to do a 0.5. Still, that means you have come down to $15. And also, the stupid part is, I think that will be the bounce level for your T either way. Yeah, so, but yeah, hate me for that. But I think I go put short for this because this looks very bad. And I don't care if Bitcoin is bullish or bearish. This fractal is bearish. Yeah, whatever you do in the near mid future, I think MSTR will go down. Okay, so because we talked about a crypto company, we will look at Bitcoin now. And before I start, I make it absolutely clear. I don't have a position in crypto. Yeah, I don't like crypto just because it's 24 hours and I don't want to have the stress. Yeah, because if I would start with it, I would start tracking in at the 4 hour, 1 hour, 5 minute, and it would kill me. Only reason. Yeah. So I have no bias in this. I'm tracking it just for fun most of the time. But I have a bullish and a bearish version. Yeah. I am absolutely, I don't want to be bullish. I don't want to be bearish, just to make that clear. We start with the bearish version for Bitcoin. And that means only one thing, that October was our top, our crypto top. That means I know there's a way bigger chart, yeah, but for this tracking, the chart of Binance is enough on the weekly. March 2020 till November 2022, this was just your A. From November 2022 till not finished yet, this was just our B, and October 2025 was our B peak. What would be our target? Well, for the B pullback, as you know, we just take the FIB, and our pullback target is 44K. The exact number news and everyone is talking about that Bitcoin has to go till October to 40K. Coincidence or not? The only way to make this bullish, you're still in your B, but you didn't got your B peak yet. So let's zoom in. So we are on the 6 hour chart. Yeah, here at the top. Yeah, for being bullish, you have your little a here, the peak in March 2024. Your bottom of your A peak of your A was August 2024, and since then we're doing B. Yeah, October, the top. I talked before with the absolute top would just be our B top. We still have to do a pullback, but in that case, you have two bouncing targets. First one is the 0.5, which we are at right now. Yeah, and technically, you see this, you have your C, your lower high, your midpoint, your T, where everyone said here in January 2026, so January 14, now Bitcoin is going to optimize. This was just your T. But technically, this T is finished. So if this is a 0.5 pullback, and I said it at the beginning already, crypto normally doesn't like 0.5 pullbacks. Crypto normally likes 0.61 pullbacks. But for the absolute bullish version, this here was your V. Means you will form a little higher low right now, and then you go. And because this is B, your next target, your C, is wherever, yeah, over all-time highs. Yeah? The alternative, but still bullish version would be you will bounce, still kind of bounce here. Yeah, maybe you're going up to 83K. You will reject this trend line, and I'm meaning the trend line with all the touch points since March 2020, which you broke. You will reject this trend line, and you will knife to your 0.618. This is 70K. Yeah. Here you have to bounce. If you bounce here, everything is still perfect. You're doing higher low and still go over all-time highs. If you're breaking here down to the momentum, and if you break under, I think then everyone already agrees to it, under 60K, you will go to 44K. Yeah, that's the only tracking I have for Bitcoin right now. Yeah. So don't kill me. I showed both ways. Okay, next one, Doge. So for Doge, in my opinion, it's far easier to track than Bitcoin. Just a personal opinion. But also here, I have two versions. We start with the bearish one first. That just means from April 2015 till March 2020, this was just your A. And from March 2020 till not yet finished is just your B. That also means you're still in the B pullback. That means you take your 0.5 or 0.618 from your A bottom on March 2020, and your target for Bitcoin, for Doge, is 3 cents or even 15 cents. Yeah? And to say that, you're not even finished with your M. So in that case, you would come down. You have to come lower than 5 cents. Up again, this would be a T. And then you will bounce here or here. This will take time. Yeah. And of course, I understand if Doge is doing that, most likely Bitcoin would be also bearish. Yeah. But that is what the Fractal is showing. Bullish version is this here. And it's a little bit more complicated. A isn't changing. Yeah. But for the bullish version, this here isn't even B yet. Yeah. Your big B would still be somewhere up here. This is just, how can I explain that in the best way? This would be just middle B, to make that clear. And this whole section would be just this section here. Yeah. So May 2017 to November 2017. Yeah. For the tracking, what that mean? That is the top still. If you take a 0.5 from your A bottom, that's kind of nothing, but it came close to the 0.5. But you finished everything. A lower high, midpoint T, V, bounce. Since this bounce here, if you look at that, this was just a higher low under the 0.786, finished. And this whole thing should be just a bounce of the 618, because this whole thing is just a little a. Yeah. Higher low. And this is just little a. Means what would happen? You will now go up, do your B, little B pullback, and then you go. Yeah. Or, because in that case, you would be right now most likely here. You still have to do this little uptrend. Was it this? Yeah. And you still have this massive uptrend in front of you. So, yeah. For levels, I just have to say, if you break, let me look. Yeah. If you break under 7 cents, I think you will go to 3 or 1 cent. That would be the absolutely bearish shit way. Yeah. As long as you bounce somewhere in this range here, everything is fine and you still can go up. Yeah. Just my opinion. Okay. And last one is XRP. So the stupid part for XRP is I don't really have a bearish hold for this. Yeah. And there's not much to track here either. That's the next thing. It's really more like it looks like fractal tracking. For the explanation, from August 2013 till January 2017, this whole thing is just our little higher low, or our macro higher low. And from January 17 till March 2020, this is our A. Wait, I made this wrong. So, yeah, this is just our A. Because if you take your 0.5 from your absolute low up here, you came close to the 0.5. So this C here is your A. Yeah? You made your pullback. You made your little higher low in here. Then you made your micro A, which perfectly bounced at the 0.618. And then you already went up to your B. Here to your B. Yeah? So is this B pullback finished? In that case, I really have to say no. Yeah. So in the worst case, I could see that XRP still has to pull back to $1, maybe even to 75 cents. Yeah. We will go to the micro tracking. Let's look for the micro tracking. The only thing I would say still is, if you micro track this B pullback, because here's your C, your top, lower high, midpoint, come down, come up again. So this M is finished. Here starts your T, and the T already went lower where it started. So in that case, technically, this is finished. Yeah, and you can go up from here. If not, you still have to go to your 0.5 or 0.6, which is at $1 or 66 cents. Yeah. Sorry. $1 or 66 cents or 75 cents. Yeah. But to what could we compare this? And that's the interesting part. Because you really only have to look at the chart, and it's nearly 1-to-1. Yeah. You have your peak. You have your peak. Then you go down. You have a pretty nasty pullback. Pretty nasty pullback. You come up and do this little peak here. You come up and do this little peak here. Okay, here it was more quicker and volatile, but this pullback is still the same. Then you do your peak in the middle of the chart. This one, same as this one. Then you come down, but you make a higher low. You come down, but you make a higher low. And then you go quite slightly uptrending. The same, like quite slightly uptrending. The only thing which is missing here is this candle here. But this really could be just volatility. But the important part about this is, then you went up. And, to say this, you make a higher high than this A peak. The same like you did here. And then you had a pullback. And you see here, it's a pretty nasty pullback. I mean, the only problem I have with this right now, that this is just nothing. Yeah, it doesn't matter from where you go. Yeah, this is just nothing, because it's not really a landmark. Yeah, I mean for the 0.5 and 0.6. So if we say that this is the A bottom, yeah, and here's our 0.5, and this here, yeah, is the same landmark, so our A bottom would be, let me look, yeah, would be around here. Yeah, maybe we are already in bounce area. Yeah, if you're doing absolutely the same, and this is just a little ABC LMT pullback without a fib, perfect. If not, you have to go to $1 at least. Yeah. To say that I don't think XRP has goes down here, that would be wrong. I'm still would track it, and I'm not a crypto profi, but we are in this pullback right now. Yeah, and whatever happens, if this is bouncing in this area here, the next move up should be pretty nasty. Yeah. So tell me, can XRP go inverse Bitcoin? Yeah. Does it even matter what Bitcoin is doing for XRP? Yeah. I mean, I already read that it could be the next money transfer system and so whatever. So it could make sense that XRP just have its own fractal and it's not really crypto anymore or synced with Bitcoin. I don't know, maybe you know it more. Or if we have just bullish tracking for XRP, maybe that's the confirmation that Bitcoin and Doge has to be bullish too. Yeah, tell me your opinion in the comments. Okay, I think that was everything. Yeah, as always, if you liked it, leave a like. Tutorial video will come here, playlist here, and if you want to see more, you can leave an hour. Let's see what happens next week. You will see us.